Absolute Batman issue 7 was honestly incredible. Not only did we get our first introduction to Absolute Mr. Freeze, but we got some new mysteries going on, building up from the very first arc that we were setting up in Absolute Batman, with everything going on with the zoo and the party animals, seeing what's up with Ark M, and we got some more stuff with Bruce's personal relationships with his childhood friends, which I am all for, and this run is looking to be very incredible. Also, as you've seen, I've already made a video on the first 5 issues of Absolute Batman in one big 45-minute video, and I did a video previously on issue 6, as I had a lot of stuff going on, so I wasn't able to make a big video for all 6 of those issues before going on to issue 7. But after this video, I will be attempting to cover Absolute Batman with each and every issue, starting with issue 8 that comes out a week after this video should be up. So we'll get a consistent stream of Absolute Batman every single month, alongside every other Absolute title I'm currently looking into and reviewing. So look forward to all that. Now then, that long intro out of the way, let's just jump right into issue 7 of Absolute Batman. And we get a mini prologue as we see a young Victor Freeze in Tanzania with his father, as they are going to find a very strange glacier as this particular glacier actually holds more life and wonders than even in the jungle that they are currently in. And what's interesting is that in a 2-page full spread with the title of Absolute Zero, Victor Freeze, the father, is calling for the younger son. But we see an image of his eyes going red and starting to bleed for the child. And as that happens, we then cut to present-day Gotham City in Crime Alley, as we get all of Bruce's friends, Wayland, Dent, Oswald, and Edward, talking about their friend. Talking about the games they used to play with the matchbook, and how he would end up going to get fake IDs and steal magazines and stuff. And he was basically a master of doing all this. And even then, chances are he would probably do this stuff and dare himself even after he wins. And the friend they're talking about that recently died is Matches Malone, which is a very interesting callback, as Matches Malone in many issues of Batman storytelling, even in mainline, was actually a persona of Bruce Wayne that he would take on, so we could essentially see what's going on street level with the people of Gotham, people who are underprivileged, the poor, or even the common criminal, to see and kind of empathize with people and try and figure out a different way that he could help people outside of being Batman, or even help in his crusade as Batman. So in Absolute Batman, looks like Matches Malone is an actual person who is friends with the group. And so when everyone's wondering what happened, where he has been, even asking who saw him last, as we get a silhouette of Bruce, which I like how in this little instance with all the friends talking, they're all kind of in silhouette, with only particular aspects of their clothing being shown in the darkness. But when Bruce comes in, he's just completely in all black silhouette, as he says he was the last person to see Matches. As we cut back to a week ago, as we learn that this is a month after the events of Black Mask, and the city is now under martial law to ensure people's safety from threats like the Batman, with a 10 p.m. curfew and police on every corner outfitted with new gear. Even the weather feels dangerous, with a massive snowstorm being on the horizon. Bruce apparently has also been talking to Alfred, said that Bruce should lie low and just go to work, but there is no work. And so Lucius says all city construction projects have been halted, most likely Lucius Fox, and that seems to be who Bruce is working for, and Lucius seems to be someone who is in charge of construction, at least a construction company in Gotham City. Bruce saying that something's definitely happening and he can feel it. Something bigger is coming along. And whatever it is, it has to do with that place. Ark M, the massive black site they're building night off the coast of Gotham City. And to figure out what's going on with that, he is going to Elliott Bridge at 5 in the morning to meet up with Matches Malone, his old friend. The two of them end up essentially hugging and talking, as Bruce actually asked him to get some work papers and ID so he can be able to get on the crew building Ark M. But before Bruce actually gets a proper hello and talk with Matches, Matches grabs onto Bruce and tells him to walk with him, as Matches seems very nervous, very skittish. Now, Bruce didn't bring any gear due to all of the prying eyes and the police everywhere, but he did outfit his cast to kind of help him fight if need be. And Alfred insisted on it being medical and medical only, but he had to do a bit of engineering for it, because obviously it's Bruce. He's Batman. He's gonna change some stuff. And so Matches tells Bruce that he got the paperwork and the ID, but he did something even better. And Bruce realized that what he did, and Matches actually went inside as one of their crew. As Bruce asks why, Matches says, "You know me, Bruce. It's just how I do things." And Bruce was incredibly upset because it's not a game. But Matches says, "Look, now I've been to my share of lockups, nasty ones too. But this Ark M is next level, like beyond, and get this, they're putting people in there already. It's up and running. It's alive. Look, I'm going back in tomorrow and I'll get more. But here, take this. Come on, man. Don't be mad at me." But Bruce just says, "I'm not mad. It was supposed to be me." Showcasing that even though he asked Matches to do something this risky, he didn't want him to do any more because obviously going into Ark M to look into stuff is incredibly dangerous, and Bruce wanted it to be him and didn't want to put any of his friends in the crosshairs of this. But Matches says, "Look, it's good to see you, man. I truly miss you. And the guys. Crime Alley for life, right? And I wouldn't have done it if I didn't want to. The truth is that I owe you." But when Bruce asks why, Matches, as he starts to sweat, ends up saying four, and before Bruce can see what's going on, in an instant, all of his pores open up and starts to bleed as Matches just kind of gushes out with blood, with multiple holes opening up all over his face as he falls to the ground, to Bruce's horror. As Matches is on the ground dead, and Bruce tries to see what's going on to see if there was an attack or something, with nothing left on the ground, and runs away, leaving Matches on the ground. And we cut back to the present with Bruce telling his friends, as the police report said it was something else, but Bruce says they were wrong. It was fake. He says whoever killed him used some kind of biological weapon. There are some leads in his phone, clues. I'll get to the person who did this, I promise. I just wanted to tell you that. And Waylon asks him if that was all he wanted to tell us. Ed says, "We thought you were dead. Last thing we heard was that," and Oswald says that he jumped out of his helicopter like Nosferatu. And so they end up talking about, well, I didn't want to make you a part of it, but Waylon says, "No way, you're not going anywhere. We are talking about this here and now. We are talking about Batman." But we then cut to some time later, as in a beautiful double-page spread of Batman just soaring through the city with his cape, and this just looks absolutely beautiful. We get a bit of a rundown of Ark M. As Bruce writes down in his combat journal, Match's phone didn't have much from Ark M, but what it did had was bad. A 4-second video shows hundreds of windowless titanium cells, and in the background, I could hear crying, begging, and screams. At the end of the video was a list. Whether Matches wrote it on or found it, I don't know, but it's filled with names. Langstrom, Isley, Strange, Freeze. Names of researchers, doctors around the world. The only one with any connection to Gotham is Dr. Victor Freeze. A pioneer of cryotech, he started a company called VCore, which is an office right here in Midtown. And for some reason, it pulls enough power from the grid to light 10 city blocks. I need to get in, but after curfew, the streets are all heavily patrolled, so with the snowstorm raging, the air seems safest. Police blimps flying blind. All predictions said the storm showed no signs of stopping, but all of a sudden, just like it started, it stopped, and I'm exposed. As it's then that the helicopter notices Batman, and so they launch drones to take him on. Now, I want to pause real quick and talk about the list of researchers. Obviously, we have Victor Freeze, who was most likely going to be absolute Mr. Freeze. Isley, obviously, it's going to be Poison Ivy, or will become Poison Ivy. And Langstrom, who would later become Man-Bat. So I'm curious to see what all these characters are going to be doing as being part of Arkham, and how their research is going to affect the construction of this facility, and how they would most likely have inevitably become the absolute versions of themselves in the absolute universe to fight Batman, which I'm incredibly curious about and I'm excited to find out. But Batman immediately avoids these drones and maneuvers his way around the city to try and get away from them, as he then gets calls from Alfred, who's asking how his arm's doing, and he asks Alfred for the information on what happened to Matches. Now, Alfred, back at his agency, asked what was going on with the biological weapon. But apparently, it's not any biological weapon or even a virus. It's some sort of bacterium. But there's no record in the World Health Organization. Bring up the question on where it came from. Alfred says he doesn't know, and that he'll be back in a few days so that they can talk about it. But until then, he wants Bruce to do two things. One, turn down the radio because Bruce as he's literally running away from all the cops, there's a bunch of noise in the background telling Alfred that he has the radio on and stuff like that. And also to take care of himself. All while Bruce literally tosses around a bunch of police officers like they're nothing. And once he manages to slink away, Alfred basically just says, look, I know you don't have a radio on, so listen to me, but Bruce just hangs up as now he has made it to VCore. We cut back to his talk with the guys in the alley as they literally go over everything that they have been through with Bruce. And Bruce saying that Batman is his and doesn't want any of them to be a part of it or be involved. But they all kind of go through some aspects that, well, they've done with Bruce and asking if that was for Batman. Like how Bruce clerked with Dent, trained with Wayland, slummed it with Oswald, and studied with Edward. As, well, it seems that everything that he's done with his friends, they're already plenty involved, as it seems that everything that's happened that they all helped with Bruce ended up being funneled into Batman. But Bruce says, look what happened to Patches. I won't let this happen. But Wayland says we all know why Patches was the way he was, as we get a cutback of them as friends, as Dent says, Wally's right, Wayland's right, Ozzy. It's time to deal with this. Lay all the cards on the table. As Bruce says, no, it's time for you to get out of my way so I can get back to work. As we then cut back to Bruce, as he's made it to VCore in order to meet with Victor Fries, as we see a bunch of animals and images that are frozen inside ice, as then we get to meet Victor Fries, who is in charge of VCore. Now, Bruce is here under the guise of checking the power core, and since Freeze is the director, it's all fine and good, and Bruce's fake identity is Pennyworth, which I like. The fake ID that he got from Matches before he died, so that he could actually have no sign of suspicion, so we can actually start asking questions and kind of poke around. And so we end up getting a bit of dialogue from Freeze. Now, Bruce asks if Victor and Nora Freeze are still overseeing things, but the director, Mr. Freeze, says, I guess you could say that yes. As he clicks a button and we see shriveled up and wired Victor and Nora Freeze in ice. As the Victor we're talking to is Victor Jr. As we most likely would be able to tell from the beginning of the issue that this is the son of Victor Freeze, but it was still essentially vague enough as we didn't know how long ago that prologue was. And I do like how instead of the literal Dr. Victor Freeze, who is a villain, a tragic villain in mainline Batman who froze his wife due to a disease, in this version, we are getting the son of these two. Now, Victor Jr. ends up saying that I know that this looks kind of extreme, but it's what they wanted. They had a shared love of ice and their faith in the mission here. As Bruce asks what the mission is, because they was wondering what VCore was. And I love this juxtaposition and just drawing that we have with Victor touching the ice, with pieces of it shattered and fractured, with pieces of not just his parents, but also of him being a child with a very rare disease. And so it's revealed that his parents froze him in order to find a way to heal him. They figured that the ice would be able to help cure him. And so his parents froze over in order to revive them later on. And it's revealed that Victor was revived from the ice due to his parents. I like in a bit in juxtaposition that we get a one singular panel back with the very last thing Wayland says to Bruce before he goes off to VCore to see what happened to Matches, was Wayland saying that if you walk away now, Bruce, mark my words, you are going to die. Which, I'm curious to see how this is going to lead into the future, but yeah, if he does get careless, he will end up dying. Now, as Bruce is kind of poking around the desk as Victor is talking, saying that, yeah, they told me it wouldn't hurt and the world would be a better place. But as we see the tips of Victor's fingers turn black with blue veins coursing through it, he says, but the ice, oh, it's not what they thought. As Bruce looks over to a bacterium on the desk, anything linking to Matches. And as Victor begins to transform, he says, not at all. With Bruce seeing an ancient microorganism perfectly preserved in ice. As Bruce questions, maybe the question isn't where the bacteria killed Matches came from, but when. With Victor's eyes going blood red with the blue pupils, saying, I felt everything, every moment in the pain. My God, ice grinds and twists. The ice isn't grace. It is fury. It's reckoning. And to give us a show of what's going to happen next, we get one last word from Wayland saying, hell, Bruce, look at you. You're already dead. As Bruce realizes what's going on, realizing that Freeze is the one that did this, Freeze begins to say, the ice births monsters, Mr. Pennyworth, just like me. as Mr. Freeze has just morphed into a giant, lengthy monstrosity with blue and black skin, blue veins coursing through him, an elongated jaw, as he says, "Now, on to the land of ice we go," as he lands his hands on Bruce, seemingly to begin to freeze him, as issue 7 comes to an end. I'm very curious to see how Batman's going to come out of this one, because this is honestly a very insane way to end things off, a very big cliffhanger, and I wonder how Mr. Freeze is going to be going forward, but I like this alteration in the origin, this being essentially the son of what would have been Mr. Freeze in this universe, now seemingly becoming a icy monstrosity that just changes in shapes, which, my lord, this is very nightmarish, and I cannot wait to see him just fight Batman in the very next issue, or how Bruce is going to get out of this situation. But either way, Absolute Batman is still a massive treat, and next week after this video comes up is going to be issue 8, so look forward to a video on that as well. And with all that said and done, hope you all have an awesome day.